Okay, picture this. A head of state is captured by a foreign power, flown to New York in handcuffs, and is about to appear in a Manhattan courtroom. I mean, this isn't the plot of some action movie. This is the reality that has just pushed an entire region to the absolute brink of chaos. So let's break down exactly how this unprecedented crisis unfolded.
This quote, coming right from the streets of Caracas, really says it all: fear and uncertainty. It perfectly captures the mood on the ground. You have an entire nation just holding its breath after a weekend of absolutely stunning developments that ended with their leader, Nicolás Maduro, in U.S. custody.
So, how did we even get here? Well, it all kicked off with one single shocking event: the capture of a sitting president. Let's take a look at how it all went down.
And that's the headline that just shook the world. A U.S. military raid on Venezuelan soil resulted in the capture of Nicolás Maduro. People are calling this the most controversial American intervention in Latin America since the invasion of Panama, and that was nearly 4 decades ago. This is, without a doubt, a massive geopolitical gamble.
And the speed of this whole thing is just staggering. On Saturday, you have the raid, with reports that some of Maduro's security detail were killed. By that very same night, the White House is broadcasting images of him in handcuffs for the entire world to see, and by Monday he's scheduled for a court appearance. This wasn't just an operation, it was a very clear, very rapid signal of intent coming straight from Washington.
So you have to ask, what was Washington's official reason for a move this risky? Let's unpack the justification and what the U.S. says its endgame is here.
And this number right here, it's central to the entire story. Venezuela sits on the world's largest proven oil reserves. You really can't understand this crisis without understanding the immense economic stakes that are in play.
And wow, this quote, it reveals the U.S. position with stunning clarity. President Trump left zero room for ambiguity, saying the U.S. plans to extract immense wealth and literally run the country until a transition that it finds acceptable is in place. It's an incredibly blunt, almost unheard of statement of foreign policy.
And here you can see the information war playing out in real time. On one hand, you've got President Trump claiming Venezuela's new interim leader, Delcy Rodriguez, is basically ready to cooperate, even quoting her saying, "Whatever you need, we'll do it." But then, in Caracas, Rodriguez is projecting a completely different image, publicly calling the U.S. action a crime and demanding Maduro be set free. What we're seeing are two completely contradictory realities being presented to the world.
And what's really interesting is that Washington also seems to be sidelining the established Venezuelan opposition. President Trump explicitly dismissed the leadership potential of a prominent opposition figure, Maria Corina Machado. This kind of suggests the U.S. has its own plans for the country's future, and they might not involve any of the existing political factions.
Okay, so that's the view from Washington. Now let's flip over to the other side of this conflict. How is the government in Caracas responding to all this? Well, as you might expect, with unified and totally defiant condemnation. So who is Delcy Rodriguez? Well, in the wake of Maduro's capture, the country's high court immediately swore her in as interim president. This gives her a claim to constitutional legitimacy within Venezuela's system, even as the U.S. is trying to undermine her party's authority.
And this table really lays out the Venezuelan government's unified strategy. You've got interim President Rodriguez declaring the whole operation illegal. You've got the defense minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, pledging that the military is loyal. And then you have the interior minister, Diosdado Cabello, reinforcing the narrative they have always pushed, that this has always been about stealing Venezuela's oil. It's a completely united front of defiance.
So, beyond all the high-stakes politics in Washington and Caracas, what does this actually mean for the people of Venezuela and for the rest of the world? Let's take a look at the impact on the ground.
This image really visualizes the chaos. You have the Venezuelan government claiming it's in charge, you have the U.S. asserting temporary control through its intervention, and then you have the sidelined opposition also trying to grab for power. And who's caught right in the middle of this massive power vacuum? Nearly 30 million Venezuelan people, all facing profound uncertainty.
And what about the global reaction? Well, a lot of nations are watching this very, very nervously. Pakistan's response is pretty typical of what we're hearing from many countries: a call for calm, for de-escalation, and for everyone to stick to international law and the UN Charter. There's a deep, deep unease about where all of this could be headed. So this brings us to right now, to the present moment, a deeply tense standoff with no easy answers. The future of Venezuela is being written as we speak, and you know what? The stakes could not be any higher.
The U.S. is applying what it's calling maximum pressure from all sides.
Diplomatically, they're talking to the interim government but not recognizing its party. Economically, they're threatening to hit them with crippling oil sanctions. And militarily, they've already hinted that a second wave could be coming if their demands aren't met.
And make no mistake, this crisis is far, far from over. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has made it crystal clear that more military action is on the table, along with a naval blockade to enforce oil sanctions. The U.S. says this pressure will not stop until real elections are held, and they've warned they will judge Caracas on its actions, not its words. The threats are explicit, and they are serious.
And so, we're left with this one big question. You have a defiant government in Caracas, you have immense pressure from a global superpower, a sidelined opposition, and of course, the world's largest oil reserves just hanging in the balance. What happens next is anybody's guess. But one thing is for sure. The future of Venezuela, and maybe the entire region, is on a knife's edge.